Man, so we have a great card coming up this week. It's not a great card, but there's a lot of fun fights on here. It's one of these sleeper MMA cards where you, if there's nothing going on, watch it. But if you watch it, I'm sure you're going to be very, very happy with what you see. The main event starts off with Alistair Overeem, the guy who has 9 lives in MMA. I swear. Every time we think he's done, he always makes his way back up to the championship picture against Alexander Volkov, one of the biggest standouts coming out of Bellator. A lot of attention from him outside of the UFC, but he's had kind of a underwhelming UFC performance. We could always see the skill of a world champion, but will he accomplish his potential? How do you see this fight?
Boy, this one, I've been going back and forth in my mind on this one for about a week now as I've been trying to break it down. So Overeem has moved to definitely a lot more clinch. He used to be kind of on when he came into the UFC, he was all bazooka, right? Mm-hmm. Anthony Joshua style, juggernaut, come forward, throw these shots, maybe a tie clinch, but usually just, rushing these dudes and landing shots that they couldn't handle. And it worked really well, brought him all the way to a UFC title shot. Then we kind of saw him start to play from the outside a lot more. And we start to see him be a little craftier, which was interesting to see. But he also got knocked out a ton. Now he's very clinch and ground and pound heavy. Mm-hmm. And so I'm finding this evolution really interesting in Alistair Overeem. The way that he continues to not even do things that he wasn't doing before, but like mixing it in different ways. You know what I mean? He's adding and subtracting focuses over time. And I think it's been really, really neat to watch. Since he lost to Curtis Blade.
Let's take a step back before we get off of Alistair. For some of the boxing fans that are joining us for the first time on MMA Conversation, could you walk us through who is Alistair Overeem? What does he mean to MMA?
So Alistair Overeem is an old school veteran at this point. This dude was fighting I think his first fight was in the 2000s. This dude was fighting back in the Rings organization,
97.
Which is like saying you fought on a card with like Sugar Ray Robinson. You know what I mean? Like that thing was fucking you can't even find footage of this. It was so old. This was early days, buddy. And he's got his kind of rookie start in that, and he ended up fighting in Pride for a really long time. He was an impressive light heavyweight at 205.
Which used to be the biggest promotion in the world, even higher than the UFC in the early 2000s.
Dutch guy, decent striker, tricky on the ground, really good guillotine choke. He has really long, kind of gangly limbs that he was good with. But, man, he caught knockouts, pretty consistently. The chin was out there, and people took it. He caught a lot of knockouts.
At his best, he is the most accomplished, or one of the most accomplished strikers in all of MMA. He is the K1 World Grand Prix champion, which is the kickboxing championship, the most acclaimed kickboxing championship of his era. He was also a champion at Strikeforce, which was the number 2 league.
I was getting to all that. I'm taking people through a journey, Jesse. You asked me to explain who the guy is. I can't fucking boil that. He's a really big striker. He took a bunch of steroids, and now he just ground and pound because he's gotten knocked out a lot. There you go.
Brock Lesnar.
If you want it quick, I could have done it quick.
Interesting was the psychology of how he got into MMA. Do you know how he got into MMA? His parents got divorced. Apparently his mom is hot. And all these dudes kept being like all pushy up on his mom and stuff. So him and his brother took up martial arts to be able to defend their mom.
From fucking? What, you gotta fucking
like shitty dudes. Like dudes can't.
Okay, no, I see the that does sound like a little kid idea though.
I can only imagine, like, does he still view some of these like creepy dudes in his neighborhood when he head kicks people's heads off?
He very well could. So yeah, Overeem, he's got to be at the end of his rope. He has said if he wants to win the title, he's making his one last run at the title. And if he were to win it, he would retire the very next day. That to me says if he loses any fight, he's retiring, right? Yeah. If the next match he loses, he's probably going to retire. And that very well could be this one. He's fighting Volkov, super tough, 6'7", 6'8" Russian, kickboxing background with a very active guard who has made a lot of guys look bad. And the only times he's lost in the UFC is when he's been taken down repeatedly, which Overeem might try to do. Or when Derek Lewis caught him with a big crazy shot and knocked him out with 10 seconds left in a fight he had dominated up to that point. So you could say that he should have won that fight. You can make that argument that he showed the better skills overall, but then he just got hit with that eraser by Derek Lewis, MMA's Deontay. On the other hand, Overeem, it has been a while since he got knocked out. He lost to Rosenstrike, but in a similar fashion to Volkov, he probably should have won the Rosenstrike fight, I argue. He got stopped with a TKO with 7 seconds left or something like that, off of basically what looked like a really badly cut lip. But there's 7 fucking seconds left. He can jab out and run. And for a guy that runs around the cage a lot like Overeem does, we could have waited another 7 seconds. Over the course of the 24.5 minutes, he had done a lot to win the fight. It didn't feel like it should come down to that one big glancing looping shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was a real disappointment.
Taylor versus Julio Cesar Chavez, where you know who's winning the fight. They just have to end the fight, but a stoppage changed history.
Who do you think is going to win this weekend?
Who do I think is going to win this weekend? I think Alistair's going to win. I feel like Alexander always finds a way to lose the big fights. I don't know if it's a psychological thing or maybe it's like a state management thing. I feel like he needs like one of those mental coaches because he looks great. He looks like a world champion 99% of the time I see him. But in the biggest fights in the UFC, like the Derek Lewis fight, he shouldn't have lost that fight. Who do you got in this fight?
You make a lot of really good points. I would say, all things considered, I am going to lean towards Alistair. But I also wonder how much of that is fondness of Alistair. And I wouldn't put money on this. I wouldn't put money on this. I really feel like, and I feel like if we see him lose, we could see the end of a legend.